Rollo the Walker, also known as Rollo of Normandy or Roland in French, was a Viking leader who played an important role in the history of Normandy in France. He was born in Norway in the late 9th century and became a notorious raider and warrior, leading attacks on England and France. In 911, Rollo and his Viking warriors sailed up the River Seine and attacked the city of Paris. The French king, Charles the Simple, offered to make a peace with Rollo and granted him a large territory in northern France, which came to be known as Normandy. In exchange for this land, Rollo agreed to convert to Christianity and pledged loyalty to the French king. Rollo became the first Duke of Normandy and established a new dynasty that would rule the region for centuries. He encouraged his fellow Vikings to settle in Normandy and adopt the local custom and language, which helped to integrate the Norse and French cultures. He also founded the city of Rouen, which would become the capital of Normandy. The treaty was the result of a long period of conflict between the Vikings and the Franks. Rollo and his Viking warriors had been raiding the coast of France for years, and they had become a major threat to the stability of the Frankish kingdom. In 911 AD, Charles the Simple agreed to negotiate a treaty with Rollo in order to put an end to the raids. Under the terms of the treaty, Rollo agreed to stop raiding and pillaging the Frankish territory and instead settle in the region of Normandy. In exchange, Charles granted Rollo the title of Duke of Normandy, along with the right to govern the region as an autonomous state. The decision to grant Rollo the title of Duke of Normandy was likely driven by several factors. Firstly, it allowed Charles to regain control over the region by creating a buffer state between his kingdom and the Vikings' territory. Secondly, it gave Rollo and his followers an incentive to settle down and integrate into the Frankish kingdom rather than continue to cause havoc through raids. Finally, it established a new power structure in the region that was better able to defend against future Viking raids. Overall, the decision to make Rollo the first Duke of Normandy was probably a pragmatic one that helped to bring the end of the Viking raids and established a new political order in the region. Rollo died in the early 10th century and was succeeded by his son, William Longsword, who continued his father's policies of expansion and integration. Today, Rollo is remembered as a legendary figure in the history of Normandy and as a symbol of the Viking era in Europe. The descendants of Rollo the Walker, also known as Rollo of Normandy, played an important role in European history and politics. Rollo himself is believed to have had at least 2 children, a son named William Longsword, who succeeded him as ruler of Normandy, and a daughter named Gerlach, who was married to the Count of Burgundy. William Longsword in turn had a son named Richard I, who ruled Normandy from 942 to 996. Richard I was succeeded by his son Richard II, who ruled from 996 to 1026. Richard II was succeeded by his brother Robert I, who ruled from 1026 to 1035. Robert I was succeeded by his son William the Conqueror, who famously invaded England in 1066 and became King of England. William the Conqueror's descendants ruled England for centuries, and many of them also had ties to Normandy. One notable descendant of Rollo is Eleanor of Aquitaine, who was married to King Henry II of England. Eleanor was descended from both Rollo and the Frankish king Charlemagne, and she played a significant role in European politics and culture during the 12th century. Overall, the descendants of Rollo the Walker had a lasting impact on European history, particularly in the areas of politics, culture, and warfare. Their influence can still be felt today in the many cultural and historical connections between Scandinavia, France, and England. Rollo of Normandy, also known as Rollo the Walker, was a real-life historical figure but whose life and accomplishments are shrouded in both fact and fiction. Here are some of the known and some of the facts and legends surrounding Rollo. Facts. Rollo was a Viking warrior who was born in Norway in the late 9th century. He led a Viking raiding party to France in the early 10th century and eventually negotiated a treaty with the Frankish King Charles the Simple that allowed him to settle in the region that came to be known as Normandy. He became the first ruler of Normandy, and his descendants went on to become influential figures in European history, including William the Conqueror, who famously invaded England in 1066 and became King of England. Fiction. Many of the stories surrounding Rollo's life are stuff of legend, and it can be difficult to separate fact from fiction. For example, some legends suggest that Rollo was so large and imposing that he had to be lifted onto his horse by 4 men. Other legends suggest that Rollo was a particularly brutal and ruthless warrior who was feared by his enemies. According to some legends, Rollo was baptized as a Christian in order to seal the treaty with Charles the Simple, although there is no concrete evidence to support this claim. Overall, while some of the legends surrounding Rollo may be exaggerated, there's no doubt that he was a significant historical figure whose legacy continues to be felt today.